Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Lorenzo Neal. First, I want to wish everyone a happy new year. I know I'm kind of behind on that, but no, I think I did a video. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Happy New Year. Before I go any further, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have been subscribing to my channels, pushing me over the 100-person subscriber mark. I appreciate it so much. Also, if you're new to this channel, I invite you to continue to watch. And if you haven't done so, subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications when I post other videos. I really appreciate your support and everything. And thank you so much for what you have done and what you will do in the upcoming time. So there's a story that I read in the Christian Post, and I will post the link to the story in the in the description. But anyway, the Christian Post reports a very interesting story. The wife of a man who confessed to molesting his child to his church leadership has filed a $9.5 million lawsuit against the church. The husband and wife are Mormons. They're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the husband went to his church leadership, their bishop, and confessed, or whatever you want to call it, to the bishop, that he had had inappropriate sexual relations with his daughter. And the bishop followed up with that by filing with the proper law enforcement agencies, and the man was arrested. I believe they're in Oregon. I can't. I was looking at the article, but anyway, yeah, they're in Oregon. So Oregon does not have, as I understand it, a mandatory reporting law on the books. They may have it, but the article did not state. Matter of fact, this happened in 2016. So they reported it, and the wife is standing by her man and saying that by the church leadership reporting to law enforcement the fact that he molested his own child violated his confidentiality. By them doing that, violated the confidentiality, and he was entitled to have that kept secret. And because they did not keep it secret, she's going for pockets, deep pockets, $9.5 million. Now, over the last nearly 2 decades now, the church as a whole, the Roman Catholic Church, the Church of God in Christ, the AME Church, and many independent churches, even the Southern Baptist Church, have been plagued with clergy sexual misconduct. We saw it in the early 2000s with the Roman Catholic Church, and many victims coming forth talking about being molested by priests. We saw it in the teens with Church of God in Christ, and many cases coming forth about their elders and church leaders also doing the same thing and covering it up. Most states require that if you are a clergy person, if you are law enforcement, if you are an educator, if you have any type of leadership role or some type of relationship with child in an oversight manner, that you're mandated by law to report any abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. You are mandated, if they confide in you, to do so. And what always gets me is when these people make this, when they file, and the backlash comes to the victim and not the perpetrator. The victim becomes, is put on blast. And this is with children and adults. The victim, if I remember when girls used to get molested back in the day, they say the girl was fast. It doesn't matter if the person in authority, usually male, took advantage of that child. The girl was fast. When the incident happened with the late Bishop Eddie Long and those young men, a lot of people came to his defense and saying, well, he did so much for these young men, and they are just taking advantage of his kindness by trying to portray him as something other than what he was to the community. And so they did the victim shaming, and after he made the settlement, millions of dollars in settlement to these young men, then people were able to say, well, he must not have been as innocent as we believed him to be. Sexual sin, particularly when it's a violation of trust and leadership, is something that I don't know why we kind of we rather sweep it under the rug and act like it didn't happen instead of just being direct. There was a pastor just a few days ago in Florida who had a history of sexual inappropriate behavior with children for decades. Not just the most recent one that had got him indicted was a teenager or a young man who made a video or post of social media regarding their relationship and what happened. And there's a YouTuber, Dawson Speaks, and Dawson and Denise. I strongly recommend that you go and subscribe to his channel because he does a wonderful job providing commentary on these events when clergy do stuff they shouldn't be doing. And we're aware that it's happening, and we are being more proactive and try to be preventative of it happening than reactive. But for a large group of people, they're still reactive, and the reactivity is in favor of the perpetrator in many cases, especially if they're a person in ministry. This is a good preacher, this is a good pastor, and so forth and so on. And that may be true, but it does not discount that they did a violation, especially when it comes to a child. But this woman, $9.5 million against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Why? Because she is saying that in 2017, when her husband was arrested and charged and convicted on all the counts, that the clergy knew or should have known that violating the doctrine of confidentiality under the circumstances would lead to that and would disrupt their family. He was the sole income provider. He was the care, he was that. And now their family is negatively impacted, not by the sexual abuse, but by the fact that he is now incarcerated. And, all that comes with incarceration has affected them. The plaintiffs stated in the lawsuit that 4 to 5 children say they have been deprived of their father's companionship, his society, his love, his affection, and his financial support. But the child who is the victim is pretty much saying, I don't care. But what I'd like to get your thoughts into this. Why do we victim shame? And the second question I asked, how would you react if your clergy person followed the law? If it was your family member or your family, why do we try to cover it up? What would you do if you discovered that your clergy person, your pastor, your minister, your imam, covered up sexual immorality against a child or against a vulnerable person, or anything you can think of? In the AME Church, we are mandated, all clergy are mandated to take this, we have to be cleared and annually take this sexual clergy misconduct class. Get you in class. We just basically what we do is we go through our book of doctrine and discipline, and we go through the section regarding that policy of clergy sexual misconduct, reporting it, how to do it, and following through the process both on the secular judicial side and within the church judicial process. And it's ingrained in us now, but I'm sure there's still some who test the waters. And there's nothing to laugh about. Please forgive me. I'm not trying to make folly of this. It's a very serious matter, specifically when it comes to people who are vulnerable, those who are disabled, and children. We have to be more vigilant to protect those populations. But if you are, would you report? Would you try to cover it up? I hope not. But anyway, share your thoughts on the story. Again, I'll try to provide the link to the story in the description. And again, I want to invite you to follow up by liking this, sharing it on all your social media, as well as subscribing and hitting that bell notification. And if you'd like to support what we do, there'll be information there also in the description. I invite you to become a patron. For as little as $1 a month, you can support us as we do what we do. And help us out. We appreciate it so much. So you guys have a wonderful day, rest of the year, and whatever you do, do it all to the edifying of others and the glorifying of God.